Hi folks, and a very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining me for this indexed video. My name is Nick, and it's time to look back at the Spectrum games we reviewed on the channel. Games 851 through to 900. Yes, we're really stacking them up now, so away we go. And we start this time with a homebrew called ASTRO PHOBOS. It's part of the Dark Transit trilogy. It's a platformer type game. You collect objects and progress to the next screen. There's some good music in these ones, but sometimes I have to turn them down a little bit, otherwise you'll get a copyright strike. But there's lots to learn here. It gets more addictive when you go through. Really smooth animations, cool graphics, cool game design, and a game really to track down. That is ASTRO PHOBOS. I recommend this one. Going a little bit more basic now, SPADE. From the early 80s, based on the arcade game Space Panic. It's got a lot of playability to it. The frame rate isn't brilliant, but it's what you would expect of this sort of like genre. My favourite Space Panic clone is the last screen of Horace and the Spiders. It's not quite up there with that, but this has got all the ones you'd expect of a Space Panic. So if you're into that particular type of game, you'll like this one. Knock a hole in the floor, get the creatures to build those, and then smack their head in. 1994, 10 years after, quite annoying to play this game. The character is exactly the same as the one as you control in Nifty Lifty. It suffers a bit from a slowdown, and every so often a bird turns up, will pick you up and dump you somewhere else. You need a lot of patience with this. I'm not sure it's programmed in BASIC, but the slowness of the thing does make it a little bit unplayable. Based apparently 10 years after the novel 1984. 1984 is nothing like this, jumping over a jelly. I don't think that actually happened. The Dark Redux is a remake of another homebrew from the 90s. Zosnia Entertainment did this game. Every game they tend to do or remake is solid gold. Great frame rate on this one. I don't quite know how they've come up with it on the ZX Spectrum, but heavily influenced by Doom. So if you want a Doom equivalent on the ZX Spectrum, then the Dark Redux is probably the way to go. It's got a fancy element to it, but collect lots of weapons and go through the maze to the exits. You know what to do, don't you? A classic maze game, BEETLEMANIA. It's already gone into my favourites of maze games on the ZX Spectrum, up there with Maziacs. But basically you control this little yellow man, got a lot of character despite it's a small character. Collect an egg and then use that to unlock the door there. You get 4 of those, then have to find the exit, get to the next stage. A lot moving on screen at the same time, very impressive. Further you get, the more enemies there are that are trying to kill you, as they tend to do in these sort of games. Jeff Capes Strongman, based on the world's strongest man. Jeff Capes was a hero of mine in the 80s. He was from Great Britain, but basically it's all about coordination. This, build up your muscles in different muscle groups, hit the right square at the right time to be successful. It's over, I think, 4 or 6, I think it might be 6 events here, but basically become the strongest man in the world and push minis over that look a bit like Mr. Bean's car. I'm sure that was an accident. Dark Transit is the first one in the Dark Transit trilogy, with ASTRO PHOBOS come third. What's really good about this game as a first entrance from a designer is there's lots of cool tips at the top there from each screen. And, you know, you're going to learn a bit more each way you go. Collect items, blow away walls, and find the best way of doing things. Real nice game, Dark Transit there. So if you want something that starts off not too difficult and eases you gradually in, then this is a great game to track down, as all the Dark Transits are. Missile Defense, based on the arcade point-out missile command. Basically, there's nuclear attack. You have to defend your planet or cities from all these missiles raining down. You do that by creating explosions just ahead of them. It gets gradually madder each way you go. There's a few missile command conversions have been done over the years. This one isn't too bad, and it's already one of my favourite ones. Great sounds, great animation with the explosions. Revenge of the Killer Tomatoes, again you got this character Smithy from 1994 and Nifty Lifty. I have to appreciate this for the basicness of the thing. You're going around a cabbage patch pulling out weeds. As soon as you've got enough, you go to the next stage, but avoid the tomatoes, Swedes and any other things that will turn up. It sure looks pretty. It's quite a basic game of an era. I prefer it to 1994 to tell you the truth. A lot of people wouldn't have heard of this game, to be fair. Dark Transit 2, KAPPA Strikes Back. This is the one where I got done for a copyright on the music, so I have to turn that completely down there. It's not a copyright strike, it's just a claim really. It really builds on the original Dark Transit. The graphics and puzzles are more advanced. Their animation is a little bit better as well. Another really well designed game. There have been some stunning homebrews that come out in 2021 and they keep continuing to do so. Good. Rick Dangerous, I was more familiar with this game on the Commodore Amiga. It starts off tricky straight away with this boulder chasing us, but outrun that and there's lots of different traps. Really cool use of colour here, makes the most use of the ZXspectrum's colour palette. It's quite addictive, this game. You'll get killed and then want to go a bit further each time. Some of the background graphics or traps are a bit harder to see when it's green on green, but good fun nevertheless. I can recommend this if you like a challenge on the good old ZX Spectrum. Big Ben Strikes Again. Now this is classic Spectrum stuff. The character's very flickery. You play a reporter who must collect a number of objects, give it to a number of famous 80s people from back in the day, so they will spill the beans so you can break a big story. You've got to do it in a certain amount of time, because I think once it reaches 12 o'clock on Big Ben, it's a game over. So very of an era this. If you want some classic ZX Spectrum colour crash business, then this is the place to go. Big Ben Strikes Again. The Dark Lost Pages. This was a B-side on the Dark Redux. Instead of 3D, now it's 2D, but the idea is the same. You go around a maze, jabbing enemies in the face with your trident, getting keys, unlocking doors to get to the next stage. It's not quite as good as Valley of Rains, which was a similar idea from Zostra Entertainment, but their use of colour always is great. No colour clash on this one, really professionally done. They are magicians. A Run for Gold. It's taking the athletics genre on a different standpoint. This era is all waggling the joystick or hitting keys as fast as you can. This one is a chase view. Animation is good with the amount of people on the screen at the same time. You take two athletes in 800 metres, 1500 metres, or I believe 400 metres, and going through different meets. You must train them up, getting gradually better so they become Olympic champions. A real nice idea. It's quite a calm and smooth game. You won't break any joysticks playing this game. Traz, another reworking of Breakout, I suppose. The colours are doing my eyes in a little bit here. I'm told it plays a bit better on the Commodore 64, but I quite enjoyed it. Once you destroyed all the brickwork, you have a choice of what direction you want to go next, because you have to clear all the different screens of the sector to be victorious in this game. It's called Traz. Yeah, an interesting one. It's different enough from Breakout to stand out on its own, I think. Black Star, a homebrew that was created in just 24 hours. Have to bear that in mind as a part of a competition. It's taking the idea of space invaders, enemies coming down the screen, very monochrome, but look at the graphics on that planet in the background, that's rather cool. And it just goes on and on and on, getting quicker or more difficult as you go through. So pretty much what you can see here is what you're actually getting. This is me on wave number 11, as you can see in the top left. So, you know, it's a good one for newbies if you like space invaders and see what you can do in one day. That's it. Moon Buggy. From the arcades there, a port. I much prefer Moon Alert to this one. This one was a little bit tricky trying to get over the obstacles, and sometimes it runs up a little bit unfair. It's quite a short game once you get used to the thing. If you put a poke on it, you'll be completing it within 5 minutes, I believe. But yeah, jump over all the enemies, don't fall down in pits, don't get blasted by the enemy shooting above, and then get back to home base. The Evil Dead, based very loosely on the films of the same name. It's very basic, this game. It wasn't released on its own, I don't think. I think it might have been as a B-side on another tape, but it could have been a lot better for my money. There's much better maze games about. I like the idea, I like the license, but it's not quite working in my mind. You're not going to get a great bit of excitement out of this. The maze is particularly small as well, so, you know, no long-lasting appeal here. Anima. Now, for those people that really struggle with the difficulty of games like Dan Terrific, other homebrews, then Anima starts fairly easy, and I have completed this game since on a live stream as well, believe it or not. You have to collect certain objects and defeat the end of level baddie at the end as we slowly go into hell. Nice jumping mechanism here, nice animation. I really like playing this game. Anima. Ground Attack, it's a scramble clone. Frame rate isn't particularly good, but it's of an era again from the early 80s. My favourite of these is Penetrator, which, you know, wasn't as advanced as this one could argue, but destroy rockets, go through different sectors, don't crash into the ceiling or the floor on the cavern. There's different speeds on this. I wouldn't recommend it on high speed because it goes quicker than you can actually blink. But if I had it back in the day, I would have been okay with it. It's got, you know, it feels quite nice to play. Rick Dangerous 2, not quite as good as the original Rick Dangerous for my money, but again, good use of colour, good puzzle elements this time round. Rick is versus aliens this time, who are up to no good. If you like the first one and want more of a challenge, then the second one is a no-brainer, to be fair, but the first game for me is where the action is. But well put together nonetheless, and some good music in there as well. Well done, Rick Dangerous 2. Wasn't a third one. Somewhere in Hell, now this is a really clever homebrew, but it's really let down by its collision detection. They've gone for 3D, I think this was made using AGD, Arcade Game Designer, but you know, really unfair. Sometimes it seems like the enemies is miles away, but the pixels hit each other, you lose too much energy. But collect 3 items and then you go on to the next stage. It alternates between this isometric and a more traditional 2D affair, but I found the whole thing pretty tricky. But the music is absolutely brilliant in this. I'd like to see this updated. Armageddon, it's alright, this game. I don't think it's quite as good as Missile Command and Missile Defense that we looked at earlier in this roundup, but again it's a port of Missile Command. There's 3 difficulty levels. This isn't a bad conversion, to be honest with you. It's got great sound to the thing. I had it on too much of an easy mode to begin with, and on easy mode you'll be playing it forever. You need to get it on least on medium. On difficult I'll find it rather difficult, but you know, if you like Missile Command you will like this game. Defender of the Crown, I didn't really know this game would come out on the ZX Spectrum. I was a fan of it on the Commodore Amiga the few times I did play it round a friend's house. But you must take your clan of medieval England and gradually take over the whole of the country and be ruler. You do this by building catapults, raiding places, building castles and seizing land, essentially. It's a game I haven't really dealt a great deal of time to, but if you're into strategy games, then this is a good one to get, and a good name, Defender of the Crown. Lava 2021, another remake of an original homebrew from Zogio Entertainment. The original homebrew of this moved quite slowly, so they run it through a different compiler and it sped it up significantly. Awesome graphics and level design, as you expect from quite often the modern homebrews, but you must collect about 5 of these marble things to get to the next stage. The character is quite small and these vehicles quite small, but they pack a lot of character into this, and because they made it small it works well. The EIDOLON, excellent maze exploration game, did well with the Spectrum's programming here. Each maze gets progressively bigger. You must collect 3 diamonds by defeating these mini guardians, and then you just attacking a dragon at the end to advance further. I think you're trapped in some mad scientist's house or dungeon and must gradually get out. I would recommend the 128k over the 48k because there's a little bit more atmosphere created with the engine sounds. Brian Jack's Superstar Challenge. Now this isn't Hyper Sports, it isn't Daily Tom's Decathlon, it's nowhere near those. I found it quite entertaining, although it wasn't quite as accomplished as those games I've mentioned before. But I would have played this a few times back in the day as a kid. It's you versus Brian. You need to get the qualifying time each time over different events like sprinting, archery, arm dips and even squat thrusts. This archery thing is very similar to the one in Hyper Sports. They're one of the better games. Oh Mummy 2021. This is another homebrew, a remake from the original Oh Mummy, which I quite like, but this has got a bigger character that you control. I think the design of this was influenced by the Amstrad CPC version of Oh Mummy. Is it better than the original Oh Mummy on the Spectrum? Well, yes, it is, because it's a bit more fun to play. It's all in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, but despite that, it's a very good game. It slows down a lot in the later levels when you've got more moving on screen, but I think the author might have gone back since then and repaired that. Moonstrike. Now, Terra Cresta or Moon Cresta, this is not. It's a little bit slow. I tried it with a poke on it to get a bit further because the ship's a bit big despite being slow, and it's still quite difficult, and then it teared up a bit. It's in monochrome, it displays quite well, but there's much more exciting vertical scrolling shooters for my money. If you like any of these snippets, do check down the original reviews that we've done. and then I will tell you much more about the video. The Rocky Horror Picture Show, or the Rocky Horror Show, based on the original West End show and subsequent film. You control either one of two characters, and you must rescue either your girlfriend or your boyfriend from turning into stone by going around this castle and collecting pieces of the D-Medusa device to save the day. Music plays throughout the whole thing. There's characters from the show that you will find here, and all the time you're up against a time limit. Quite a nice game. When I live streamed it, a few people didn't like it because of the music, but I thought it was cool. ARKANOID back to basic. It's ARKANOID from the arcades, but this time it's a homebrew, and it's been made just in basic as a part of a competition. Again, it slows down a little bit in multi-ball, but it's really nice to see what you can do with basic. Again, I think the author might have gone back and recoded it so it goes a little bit quicker, but this is my experience of the game, and they've done a really good job. It's ARKANOID, so if you want a basic version of ARKANOID, here we go. I'm told it's more influenced by ARKANOID Revenge of Doe. The CUSTARD Kid, well, I think influenced by Acid Attack, to tell you the truth. It's a similar sort of idea, but you're going around a custard factory trying to find a number of recipes so then you can actually escape. If you've ever been trapped into a custard factory, then don't have flashbacks. Instead of a chicken going down with energy, you can see on the bottom right there, it's 3 milk bottles, because that's what you use to make custard. An interesting idea, I don't think anyone would have had that, but collect keys, go through coloured doors, you know the sort of thing to do. The Last Vampire, a maze exploration game. It's you against Count Dracula. First of all, you must find where Count Dracula is, and then collect coins and buy sort of like items to actually drive a stake through Count Dracula's heart. He's hiding in a coffin somewhere in this place. Good graphics, it moves quite well, and you know, a good game to play. I would have liked this one back in the day. Some people say it was influenced by FIRELORD, the way it moves, but we might come to that a bit later in this roundup. Forward to the Past, one of the more memorable homebrews I've played in recent years. Really nice by Slonysoft. You take control of Dave and Nate in this vehicle, influenced by the vehicle in the Pyramid, if you're aware of that game. And you must collect 42 of these crystals, which have a special name I can't pronounce. Great level design, and there's great names for it, and the game has bags of character. Although being a homebrew, it does feel very much like a game that could have been brought out in the day, and I get nostalgia from it despite it being a new game. Earth Defense, yes, you've seen this before. It's Missile Command again, played slightly different there, but you know, it's not a bad one again. My favourite is Missile Command, I would say. Well, Missile Defense, I would say. I keep pronouncing the wrong one. But yeah, we've looked at a few Missile Command variants in this strip. Well, it might be a case that we've eventually will run out. That's Earth Defense. Defend the Earth from alien or nuclear attack. You can do it, Big Nose. Mad Martha, it's a text adventure game where I call myself Big Nose for reasons unknown. But got a lot of humour in this game. We don't view a lot of text adventure games because they're hard to make into a reasonable video. But I made an exception for Mad Martha. I had the sequel back in the day, I think briefly. And, you know, if you know what to type in, you'll be very successful. If you don't know what to type in, it could be a very long day for you, so you try to avoid being chopped to death by Martha's axe, because she'll turn up every now and again. Yes. Ultimate Manic Miner, another Manic Miner mod. Well, I say more like a Jet Set Willy mod, really. Feels a little bit like a demo. There's quite a lot to do, but it's more of an exploration game, really. The music playing is identical to that from another mod called ZxSpectrum Heroes, Manic Miner, or Jet Set Willy, and that's by the same author a couple of years before. So, you know, there's no big surprise. This time he's at Stonehenge doing another bit of mining. Good luck, Miner Willy. Good. The official Father Christmas game. Now we've come to a few Christmas games because we, well, it was over Christmas that we did these, believe it or not. Santa is in his grotto. The elves aren't very helpful. First of all, you must find 6 pieces of a sleigh to put together. If the elves bump into you, then you lose it and it turns up somewhere else. The part of the sleigh you've got to start again. Quite frustrating, but good graphics. Once you put it together, there's other games there, including flying over the houses and delivering presents. So well worth persevering with if you're in a Christmassy mood. Summer Santa, terrible, terrible game, but I can get away with it because I class it as a Christmas cracker sort of a game, i.e. Christmas cracker jokes aren't very good, but you like to open them every year. Moves a bit dodgy, doesn't really feel too much like Santa, but find the 6 presents and you're there. There's quite a few glitches in this game, including if you get to a chimney, you can't really jump on the little like ledges, you just fall all the way through. But anyway, it's a bit of Christmas fun, so we'll let it off. This is a very good Christmassy game by Quantum Sheep. It's a very sheepy XMAS. It's over single screen. It's got a cracking soundtrack all the way through. I like those pixels that come down. But basically, you need to rescue Disco Santa, who's dancing at the top of the screen each time. Get to him, it's on to the next zone. There's different lands, there's different levels within each zone, and it can keep you entertained as you control this mighty sheep over Christmas to get to Disco Santa. There we go, we got to the ice castle. Well done, us. Another homebrew, ZOMBO'S Christmas. Zombo is a character from 2000 AD, which Judge Dredd famously was in. But again, a similar idea to before. Summer Santa, it's better than Summer Santa. You must go around avoiding the enemies, collecting all the presents so Christmas can be saved. Well done, Zombo. I don't know too much about him, but do not get killed, and that's a good tip for any game, really, isn't it? I would say so. Check down ZOMBO'S Christmas capers if you're coming up to Christmas. Mr. Freeze, not particularly a Christmas game, it's very, very tricky as well, only because the animation isn't particularly good. But you must de-ice 6 fridges, yes, it's that exciting. This guy's he's a dodgy jumper, that's another thing about Christmas. You can shoot this flamethrower, avoid getting zapped by the laser. You can de-ice any of the 6 fridges in any order, because if you go off the screen, you'll go on to the next one. Better games are available, it's interesting, but I didn't get the hang of the thing at all. But if I had it back in the day, maybe I would persevered. DuckTales, a really cool homebrew, really good graphics. This based on the cartoon starring Scrooge McDuck and Donald Duck's nephews, Huey, Dewey, and Louie. And it's WEBBY to the rescue. I don't know what character that is, but again, it's another one of those collecting items, getting keys to go through doors. And I get the sense that this game is completable as well. It's not massive, it's really nice, so well worth donating some of your time to. WEBBY to the rescue, DuckTales. Tetris 2, I've reviewed quite a lot of Tetris games over the years. This is on the Spectrum, of course. Tetris 2, really great soundtrack, different modes of play, and I think this is my favourite Tetris on the ZX Spectrum. There's even a mode where you can play with different shapes, so the 7 traditional Tetris shapes, and then 7 other ones random up, and some of those shapes are crazy and very hard to fit in. So if you're good at Tetris and want an extra challenge, now you've got different shapes to play with. Good luck to you at Tetris 2. FIRELORD, I mentioned this earlier on when we was looking at The Last Vampire. This moves quicker than that. It feels like, although it's by Houston Consultants, it does feel like a traditional Ultimate game, similar to Saber Wharf. Back in the day, I wouldn't have completed this. I would have just run around shooting stuff and getting as far as I can, and seeing the various bits of scenery. But again, there is an objective there. Collect weapons, trade in different houses to get different objects, and then save someone from something, no doubt. But nicely put together, real nice graphics. RODLAND Reimagined, this is Raphael Miazga. The original RODLAND was released as a monochrome. Raphael's gone back and put colour in, as he did to a lot of games, most notably Outrun Europa. And the game really pops now. It seems a lot more fun, plays exactly the same. He hasn't messed with the original code at all, but what you got is a real nice game. The crocodile bonus stage, they're all bright green, so you know, it's a joy to play. The music has always been very, very good in RODLAND, and this is RODLAND Reimagined. Mad Martha 2, she's back, she's mad, and now she's on holiday. Again, you have to solve things, get items there, and I think you need to rescue someone as well. But if you see Mad Martha, don't marry her at all. She's crazy, go through different doors, and this is a screen I sort of remember as a kid when I played it on a C90 tape, and I was like transfixed. Some of the graphics take a bit while to draw. Here it is drawing a curtain. Draw the curtains. Okay, but it won't take this long, maybe, or maybe it will. Typhoon from the arcades. The Spectrum always struggles in monochrome shooters because you're trying to see the bullets firing at you the same colour, but you can drop bombs, you've got smart bombs. The levels like alternate every so often between this vertical scrolling helicopter stage and a chase few plane stage as well, so it's quite interesting there. The Spectrum did as much as it possibly can with this, and I think it did really well. My favourite shooter, vertical shooter on the Spectrum, is probably a Flying Shark, which suffered from similar problems, to be fair. Space Racing, a really ambitious homebrew. It's trying to be F-Zero on the ZX Spectrum. It doesn't quite do it, although I have to admire the coding. Maybe the ship needed to be a bit smaller, or they needed to put the viewing angle a bit higher so you saw more of the screen. With the frame rate as it is, it's very difficult unless you learn the tracks, but having said that, when I live streamed it, I was getting gradually better each time, so you do have to get your Spectrum eyes on this one. But a tough racer, but you know, they've done a really good job on this, but it doesn't play particularly well. Gauntlet, the final quest, the final one in this batch of index stuff. It's 3D this time, so all Gauntlet games before were top-down 2D, and I think that's what works best for this type of game. It doesn't really feel like Gauntlet at all. If they called it something else, they probably would have been, I could have lived with it a bit more. Same sort of users, Escape from the Planet of the Robot Monsters. A good game in itself, but not really a game I would call Gauntlet. So it's Gauntlet 3, the final quest. So I hope you like having a look at all those games. Always fun to review. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing, because that helps the channel keep going. Gradually we'll get up to 1,000 games, I'm sure. It'll be absolutely amazing. If you liked any of those snippets there, do check out the original reviews. There's lots of chapters in the review games playlist now from all different systems. Have a look at those if you haven't already done so, if you want to see what we've covered on the channel. But yeah, thanks for watching again, really appreciated. Until next time, take great care of yourself and a very fond goodbye.
Goodbye.